All right, let's jump right in. We're going to talk about an economic idea that's, believe it or not, hundreds of years old, but it is making a massive comeback and shaping the world we live in right now. It's called mercantilism, and you might be shocked at just how relevant this old-school empire-building playbook still is today.
But first, let me ask you this. When you think about the global economy, do you see it as a collaboration where everybody can win together? Or do you see it as a battlefield, a zero-sum game where for one country to get richer, another one has to lose? How you answer that question? Well, that gets right to the heart of everything we're about to explore.
So to really get this, we've got to rewind the clock a bit. See, mercantilism wasn't some abstract theory cooked up in a university. Oh no. It was a very practical and, let's be honest, a pretty aggressive strategy for building empires and winning the game of global power.
I want you to picture the scene. It's the 1500s. The old feudal system is crumbling, and in its place you have these powerful, centralized nations rising up. Think England, France, Spain. And these new countries, they are in constant, vicious competition with each other. They're building professional armies, massive navies, and all of that costs an absolute fortune. They had this insatiable need for one thing: cold, hard cash.
And this led them to a core belief that the world's wealth was basically a fixed pie. There's only so much gold and silver to go around, right? So if you wanted a bigger slice, you had to go out and take it from someone else. This is why they didn't see trade as some friendly exchange. For them, it was a form of low-grade, perpetual warfare. Every single deal, every shipment of goods was a strategic move on a global chessboard.
So how exactly did they wage this economic war? Well, it wasn't random at all. It was a highly structured system. This playbook for building up national power really rested on 5 interconnected pillars.
At its core, this is what mercantilism is all about. It's an economic system where a nation's power and its wealth are measured by just one thing: its stockpile of gold and silver, what they called bullion. And the only way to get more of it was for the government to take total control of the economy, to guarantee one simple outcome: you have to sell way more stuff than you buy.
And what's so fascinating is how these 5 pillars just lock together to create this aggressive, self-reinforcing machine. It all starts with the main goal: hoard gold. To do that, you got to sell more than you buy. You fuel this whole operation with a large population for cheap labor and, soldiers. Then you exploit colonies for cheap raw materials and a guaranteed market to sell your stuff to. And finally, you protect the whole system with high taxes on imports, called tariffs, to make sure your own people buy your goods. Every single piece was designed to funnel wealth and power straight to the state.
This quote just nails the entire philosophy. It's from a guy named Thomas Munn, who was a director of the East India Company and one of the most famous mercantilist writers. I mean, he just lays it out, plain and simple. The only way to get rich is to sell more to foreigners than you buy from them. That single sentence was the guiding principle for European empires for centuries.
But then, everything changed. For over 200 years, mercantilism was the undisputed champion of economic ideas. And then, in the late 18th century, a powerful new set of ideas came along that didn't just question mercantilism, it completely blew it apart. It was nothing short of an intellectual revolution.
So you have thinkers like the philosopher David Hume, and he spots a fatal flaw in the logic. He pointed out that hoarding all that gold was kind of like overfilling a bathtub. Eventually, it's just going to spill out. See, more gold in your country would simply cause prices to rise, inflation, which makes your goods too expensive for other countries to buy. Your exports would tank, and the gold would flow right back out. It was a self-defeating cycle. But it was his friend, Adam Smith, who would deliver the final knockout blow.
This slide right here really shows the head-on collision between these two worldviews. Smith basically took every mercantilist idea and flipped it on its head. He argued that real wealth wasn't a pile of gold, it was what a nation could produce. Trade wasn't a war to be won, it was a collaboration where everyone could benefit. And the ultimate goal of an economy wasn't just raw state power, it was the well-being of the average person, the consumer. It was a complete paradigm shift.
And hearing it in his own words, you can really feel how revolutionary this was. Smith says that in the mercantilist system, the interest of the consumer is almost constantly sacrificed. He's pointing out that ordinary people were paying higher prices, they had fewer choices, all just to enrich a few powerful producers and the state. For Smith, the entire point of an economy was to serve the consumer, not the other way around. He turned the whole system upside down.
So for about 200 years, Adam Smith's ideas about free trade pretty much dominated. But
You know, history has a funny way of circling back. Here in the 21st century, we are seeing a stunning comeback of these old ideas, just in a new modern form. Welcome to the age of neo-mercantilism.
So what exactly is neo-mercantilism? Well, the goals are strikingly similar to the old version. Use your economy to build up national power and get an edge over your rivals. The big difference is that the tools have been updated for the 21st century. So instead of colonial monopolies, you're thinking about strategic industries and complex supply chains.
Yeah, the modern playbook is a lot more sophisticated. You still got the classic tools like strategic tariffs and subsidies to boost your own companies, but now there are more subtle tactics, like manipulating your currency's value or creating complex regulations specifically designed to keep foreign goods out. And it's also about playing offense. Governments pour tons of money into R&D for key technologies and strategically realign their supply chains with friendly nations, a practice that's now called friendshoring.
And look, this isn't just a theory. This chart makes it totally concrete. Just look at the dramatic shift in U.S. tariff policy towards China after 2018. That is a clear-as-day example of modern protectionism in action, a tool pulled straight out of the old mercantilist playbook, but deployed in the modern world to try and protect domestic industries. And this is the perfect modern analogy. Back then, the big fight was over gold and silver bullion. Today, the competition is for control over strategic assets. I'm talking about things like semiconductors, the brains inside all of our modern electronics, or rare earth minerals, which are essential for everything from your smartphone to advanced military hardware. The game is the same, the prizes have just changed.
So this brings us to the big question, right? Why is this all happening now? Why are we seeing this return to a zero-sum economic battlefield kind of thinking after decades of moving toward free trade and globalization? Well, it's not a simple choice. It's really a reaction to a rapidly changing world.
At the heart of it all is this major shift. For decades, the main goal of economic policy was pure efficiency, making things as cheaply as possible, no matter where in the world they were made. But recent shocks have completely shattered that idea. The pandemic showed us just how fragile our supply chains were, and Russia's weaponization of its energy supplies showed how being dependent on another country could suddenly become a massive threat. All of a sudden, the top priority has shifted from efficiency to security and resilience.
And that leaves us with this final, really provocative thought. If you live in a world with strategic rivals, where trust is low and competition is high, is it even possible to have a truly collaborative global economy anymore? Or does the simple logic of national security just inevitably push every country toward playing some version of the mercantilist game? That's the debate that's shaping our future. Thanks so much for joining me.